Yep. What's good, y'all? It's Sean P. the Blunt God. Aye. And I am back again with another reaction stream. And today, it's gonna be a unique stream, a different stream. Today I will be reacting to one of my close friends in this One Piece culture or whatever. My friend ELiDZ, who is a fellow YouTuber, fellow content creator, makes some great theories. I always love hearing what he has to say. I say that every time I talk about him, bro. Like I really love his input. He thinks of things in a different ways, ways that I don't see it. You know what I'm saying? And have me thinking. But today we will be doing a reaction video to his video. Let me make sure. Let me get the correct title for this. It's why cursed swords and devil fruits go together. How Zoro will get devil fruit powers. Now I haven't watched any of the video just yet because I wanted to save it for my reaction video, and I usually trust what he puts out. So I don't think he's going to mislead us to anything. But here's another thing that makes this stream unique. Now the video itself is about 44 minutes, but I don't want to go through the whole video, and that's only because I want you guys to go to his channel and watch the full video, and make sure you show him some love. The video will be in the description box, so make sure you go to that link. You'll go to the video and go hit that subscribe button, and make sure you like his video because it's his video. So if you like my video, make sure you go like his video, please. And subscribe to him if you haven't yet. But I'm gonna probably do a good portion of the video, and then we will be bringing ELiDZ himself. This was kind of a last minute type of thing I put together. When I first put the stream together, I didn't expect him. He suggested that. He's like, hey, let's collaborate on it. And I'm like, hey, that is an excellent idea. So I'm like, hey, we're gonna get him on the stream a little after I'm done the reaction myself, and I can get his opinion. So since we're getting him on the stream, I won't be stopping it as much. I don't want to stop it too much, and I won't expand on things too long because I would like to hear what he got to say. I'm gonna let him expand on some of the things he say in his video, and you'll probably see me writing notes. I got paper, so I'm gonna try to write notes to figure out what I want to ask him. You know what I'm saying? So without any further ado, so we could get this going. It is a 45-minute video. We're going to try to watch somewhere around 25 to 30 minutes of it. So let's get to it. Bing bang. So again, the video is why cursed swords and devil fruits go together, and how Zoro will get devil fruit powers. Let's get to it. And I think I seen him in the chat. Let me see what he said. He said a playlist of all my One Piece videos. You got a link to it, brother? Yeah, make sure you put a link. Make sure you put your link to the playlist, and with hold on, before I do that, I want to let me refresh this because
this is going to be a 3-part.
Let me refresh this. Refresh this page.
This is going to be a 3-part series packaged into one video. I'm remastering a video I worked on 2 years ago. It's relevant now since a big part of what started that theory has been proven correct in recent chapters. In between each part will be an intermission that will contain bits of the secret ending for each video. A secret ending is when I finish the theory and just start talking freely about topics. I will also add an extra info. Enjoy this full and completed theory.
How can a sword become cursed?
Cursed swords were introduced nearly 2 decades ago, but we still don't know 2 major things about them. How were they created, and what's their true power? In this video, we will be speculating the origin. So far, the only clue we have is that black blades are made from a swordsman's haki. That's useful information, but it doesn't close this case, because black blades aren't said to be cursed as far as we know. I wouldn't be surprised if they were confirmed as some type of curse, but it's not enough to speculate, because Enma and the Katetsu blades aren't black, yet they are cursed. However, it's a step in the right direction, because while I don't believe it's the swordsman's haki that curses the blade, I do think that is the swordsmith's haki that curses the blade.
I agree with that. I think
it's not a curse, but rather a test of worthiness.
I know we just kind of started, and I said I'm not going to stop much, but I do agree. I think me and him talked about it. I agree that I think it's the blacksmith sword. I think I said it in my reaction. I think I did. I think that the blacksmith, they infuse their soul into their swords. They infuse their own haki within the sword. So, yeah, But I'm gonna let him talk.
First, it shouldn't be too shocking that the curse is related to haki. Haki can translate to spirit, or as willpower, and many other similar words. When Zoro first used Shisui, he commented on how heavy it is, and how he'd need to get used to wielding a blade of its material. We now know it wasn't just a material, but rather haki itself. May the struggle have been Ryuma's will wanting a swordsman skilled enough to wield such a blade? Possible. I mean, it does match up with what a swordsman would expect of another who wields their blade. However, Katetsu and Enma haven't been said to be exceptionally heavy, most likely because it isn't imbued with armament haki. I'm more inclined to believe that it's Conqueror's haki, which is invisible, so that explains why cursed blades don't have a change in color. Those who use Conqueror's haki are usually people who strive to be the very best at something. Someone that wants to be the best blacksmith would want the best warrior to wield their blade. Most swordsmen do not care about the intent of the one using the blade. Tashigi is a rare exception. However, the blacksmiths care more deeply for their weapons more than anyone else. They want to know that its wielder can honor the sword. When Zoro proved himself to the Sandai Katetsu, it wasn't his swordsmanship being put to the test, but rather his conviction. My last piece of evidence is what we learned from a swordsmith in the story. Hitetsu tells Zoro that he is compatible with Enma due to his possible connection to its swordsmith. With all that said, that just about covers why I believe cursed swords exist. In part 2, I will go over what I believe is the true potential of the cursed sword's power. I hope you enjoyed part 1. What I'm going to show you next is a theory I made months after my cursed sword theory. It is a different multi-part theory that I call understanding haki, also known as the Chakra haki theory. This is because I show many correlations between the 7 chakras and haki. The first video covers why haki is a vibrational energy known as chi. In the second video, I explain that energy can vibrate at certain frequencies to result in chakra. The clip we're about to watch now is from part 3, in which I go over how Conqueror's haki correlates to what is known as the crown chakra. It's cut down to show just what matters to the cursed blade theory. Thus, should you watch the full video, make sure you don't skip this, as there's important details you could miss. This clip is relevant to this theory because I give an actual explanation as to why it would make sense for Conqueror's haki to give cursed blades, or any named blade, a will of their own. Remember when I said third eye deals with the mind? It might lead you to believe that chakra is centered in the brain, but it is between the eyebrows. It is the crown chakra that is located in the brain, in the physical sense, but in the spiritual sense, it's sort of on top of your head, like an actual crown or a halo.
I'm gonna let it play. I mean, I want to talk more about this with ELiDZ when I get him on there, but kind of the thought that Conqueror's haki can, like infusing Conqueror's haki, is what creates that black blade. And this is going to be a question I'm gonna ask ELiDZ when I get him on there, but I kind of want to ask it now because I'm curious. We know Shanks. We know Shanks has Conqueror's haki, but like I don't think his blade has been shown to have, or I don't think it's shown to be a black blade. So, in would there be like a certain, I guess, method? You know, like maybe Shanks just doesn't know or isn't aware of what's the word, to make his blade a black blade. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe he's missing something that would make his sword a black blade, or maybe does it have to be cursed in order to be a black blade? Like does it? I mean, is like it being cursed, is that like a prerequisite of it being a black blade? Like maybe Shanks's blade just isn't cursed, so it can't really become a black blade. You know, but that's kind of what I'm kind of letting him know now. Like I know he's watching, so you know that kind of preparing for when I answer that question. I don't know, but ELiDZ said this is a moment you could skip to save time. Okay, we can skip. You're gonna go to 9:21. He says. So yeah, and another thing. Okay, I'm gonna let it play for you guys.
Help me make this theory.
Cursed Sword Theory Part 2.
In Part 1, I came to the conclusion that cursed swords were the result of Haki infused in the blades by the swordsmith. Not Haki that made the sword itself stronger, like black blades, but rather an invisible Haki that gives the blade a will of its own. Almost as if it was possessed or cursed. In this video, I'll go over what benefit that curse actually gives the blade, rather than it being a detriment. I believe the potential in the cursed blade is not in its own power, but rather the power it draws out of the wielder. We already seen this with Zoro and Enma. Enma forced Haki out of him. Once he masters Enma, the compatibility between the sword and its master will probably allow Zoro to surpass his own limits. However, I don't think that's the extent of a cursed blade's true power. It's when you pair two curses together that you really see why the risk is worth it. I'm referring to devil fruits. Cursed blades usually have a demonic or hellish name, and devil fruits reference the demon king of hell himself. The curse of the devil fruit is described as a spirit, similar to how the curse of blades are said to have a will of their own. What I'm suggesting is that cursed blades will not only draw out the Haki of the swordsman, but the devil fruit powers as well. Remember, the curse of the blade is likely Haki to begin with, and we've seen that Haki and devil fruit powers can mix. Gear Forth is a great example of this. An even more significant piece of evidence is the fact that Sea Stone prevents both devil fruit and Haki abilities. I don't think it's a stretch to think that the two are connected and possibly synonymous. In fact, I don't think my proposition is just hypothetical. We may have already seen this a number of times in the story. The likes.
I would ask ELiDZ on that one. See, cause we know like, cause where we see like let me rewind it a little bit, cause we kind of see the moment where when he said that the sea prism stones stop the it suppresses the devil fruit abilities in Haki, but because we see Luffy, right? Luffy kind of saying
Gear Forth is a great example of this.
I'm gonna go.
An even more significant piece of evidence is the fact that Sea Stone prevents both devil fruit and Haki abilities.
Okay, so it said, does it suppress Haki? Like, does it suppress Haki? I don't, like that's kind of the question. Because I know with Luffy, right? We know he couldn't really use Haki. It showed it right. It showed it right here. He says, okay, we get Corporal or Corporal, whatever his name is. He said, damn it, if only I can use Haki. Is it the Sea Prism that's stopping Luffy from using Haki? Like, is it the Sea Prism suppressing the Haki, or is it the fact that Luffy is a Devil Fruit user with Sea Prism on, and he's already kind of in a weakened state? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's kind of in a weakened state, So it because I thought he couldn't use it because he was already weak because of the C prism. You know what I'm saying? So his haki couldn't be bloom because he's weaker because of the C prism. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let it go.
I don't think it's a stretch to think that the two are connected and possibly synonymous. In fact, I don't think my proposition is just hypothetical. We may have already seen this a number of times in the story. The likes of Fujitora and Hawkins using their devil fruit powers through their swords comes to mind. Unfortunately, we don't know if their swords are cursed or not. However, Law is a swordsman that seems to almost exclusively use his sword alongside his devil fruit powers.
Yeah, that's true.
And we know his sword, Kikoku, is indeed a cursed blade. With all that being said, stay tuned for the third installment, in which I show how I believe Zoro will obtain devil fruit powers.
Alright.
Now I'll just go over the devil fruit users' swords. So you have Law, who is pretty much always
I kind of want to watch a little
using
bit of
Kikoku with his devil fruit power. It's almost as if
I know
he
I could
got the
skip it,
sword to be
ELiDZ, but I
specifically
kind of want to
used
watch
alongside his devil fruit powers. Almost as if he has somewhat of a dependency on the sword. Also, you gotta wonder, why is it even a cursed blade to begin with? Like, Oda had to make the conscious decision to say that Law's sword is a cursed sword. But for what reason? What purpose does it serve? Well, that's what this theory is for, is to say, well, there is a reason that it's significant that it's a cursed sword. And it has to do with using the devil fruit powers. Next, we're moving on to Hawkins. The way he uses his devil fruit powers on his sword is similar to that of Awakening. Now, we're not sure if he actually has awakened his devil fruit or not. However, if he hasn't, and he's still able to use his sword the way that he does, it would make sense. It's like I said with Zoro and Enma. Them working together can make Zoro surpass his limits, so it could be possible that Hawkins using that sword allows him to use it as if he already is awakened, even if he isn't. Also, Hawkins uses voodoo. It wouldn't be too much of a surprise if he had a cursed sword when his power focuses around voodoo, which is all about curses. Now let's move on to Fujitora. He's always using his sword and his devil fruit power together. For some reason, when his devil fruit power has nothing to do with swords. When he's setting down meteors and the like, what does his sword have to do with that? Yet somehow, some way, his swordsmanship is causing his gravity powers to work. Well, what if it's the fact that the sword is enhancing his powers, and that's why he's so dependent on using the sword? In some way, this sword allows him to exceed his limits of what he could normally do with his gravitational powers. Now here's the real kicker. Fujitora might not even have a cursed blade, and this theory would still make sense, but we're not going to find out why until the next episode, so stay tuned. Real quick, the same thing I just said about Fujitora, I could say about Whitebeard, so I'm not even going to mention him. Just
alright,
imagine I switched the two.
I'll skip at Brook.
It makes sense. Lastly, I'm going to talk about Brook. He is so interesting that it's going to be its own video, so we're not actually going to talk about Brook, but stay tuned for that. And I guess that kind of makes it a 4-part theory, but I don't want to look at it like that. Brook is just going to get his own video. We'll leave it at that.
What's the
Back then I said Brook would get his own video. However, instead he got a big part in my understanding Haki series.
1951. If Zoro can tame a cursed sword, can he
part
master
when we
the
learned
power
that cursed
of a
blades
cursed
aren't
sword?
really cursed, but imbued with Haki, aka spirit. In part 2, we learned that the spirit possessing the sword draws out the spirit of the swordsman. As a result, devil fruit users could use their power incorporated and enhanced by their swords. Now we're going to learn how our main swordsman Zoro will earn devil fruit powers. I personally have never wanted Zoro to get devil fruit powers of his own, and still don't. To clarify, I'm referring to him eating the devil fruit and having his soul merge with the cursed fruit. However, gaining a devil fruit sword, on the other hand, is exactly what I'd like to see. A devil fruit sword isn't anything new, nor does it have to be wielded by a master swordsman. Even someone as lame as Spandam can have one. However, Spandam wasn't even really using the weapon because the weapon itself was given life by a Zone Devil Fruit. It is widely believed that Zone Devil Fruits can be utilized by inanimate objects because it will give the lifeless object a consciousness. Without a will of its own, an inanimate object can't activate the Devil Fruit power in order to use Paramecia or Logia abilities. Or maybe the powers are active, but can't be directed for specific use in accordance to the will of the weapon user. But I don't like the idea of Zoro having to settle for a Zone sword. I'll elaborate why in the secret ending, so let's move on to how it is that a Paramecia or Logia sword could be used. One method I could think of is Cursed Blade. They have a spirit of their own already in them despite being an inanimate object. Thus, if they get a Devil Fruit that was a Paramecia, then the power could still be activated. Now the question of how could a power be tamed and utilized needs answers. To start off, it shouldn't be a surprise that it requires a Master Swordsman to use the Devil Fruit power within the sword. The will of the blacksmith needs to be satisfied before the swordsman can even think of using its power. The skill and conviction being proven to the blade's haki isn't all that is required because the swordsman needs to acknowledge that there is even a spirit in the blade, and then be able to listen, command, and exert the blade's power. This is where the swordsman mastering haki comes into play. High-level observation is required in order to acknowledge the spirit and listen to it. High-level armament haki, also known as Ryo, is necessary to release the power of the Devil Fruit sword. This is something I'm sure Zoro can accomplish because he knows the breadth of all things. The way Hyogoro described Ryo is identical to what Kiyoshiro said in the flashback in which the breadth of all things was introduced. It makes sense that Ryo, which is the ability to flow and release, will be used to unleash the Devil Fruit's power within the blade. To make it even more evident is the whole reason it is called the breadth of all things in the first place. Zoro was able to dodge rocks he couldn't even see. Clearly that falls in the line of observation haki. However, when observation haki is used, it's meant to sense and predict in response to the intent of other living beings. So how was it that Zoro was able to sense rocks that don't have wills of their own? It's because he can sense the breathing of the rocks. He could sense the breathing of everything around him, whether it was alive or not. Hence why it is called the breathing of all things. I believe that Zoro learning to understand the consciousness of a cursed sword will lead him to comprehend the consciousness of any sword. If he were to master the breath of all things, I'm sure he'd be able to use any Devil Fruit power of a sword, even if it wasn't cursed, like the Wado Ichimonji. With all that being said, it presents the obvious question. How would Zoro even get his hands on a Devil Fruit sword, or have a Devil Fruit put into the swords he already have? It sure be convenient if Vegapunk just decided to do that for Zoro, but we have no reason to believe that such a thing would happen at this moment. It's possible, but let's not put all our eggs in one basket. What if there is someone else besides Vegapunk, Caesar, or any other scientist that has nothing to do with Zoro? Side note, it would be hilarious if the Germa 66 gave Zoro a special sword just to piss off Sanji. Back on topic. There may have been someone else more relevant to Zoro that could grant him a Devil Fruit sword. Maybe Zoro already has a Devil Fruit sword. The reason I say this is because that someone in Wano knows how to give inanimate objects a Devil Fruit. Remember, Hitetsu, the blacksmith that has been impressed with Zoro's swordsmanship, just happens to have a teapot named Bunbuku. He or someone he knows gave an inanimate object the Inu Nomi model Tanuki. Perhaps there is a devil already within the Kitetsu that Zoro wields. Call me crazy, but it's almost too convenient to be irrelevant. Wano is clearly a place for Zoro to develop. Is it just a coincidence that we're learning more about cursed swords, Zoro's backstory, Ryo, breath of all things, and that someone on the island might be able to give Devil Fruits to sword? Maybe it means nothing, but if it ends up coming true,
said, when done with the part, you should skip the 2916. Oh, with this part about
well, you know it wasn't just an asshole. These
Okay.
videos show the evidence that has been there all along. And with that concludes my cursed blade theory. What do you think? Would you love to see Zoro get his own Zanpakuto one day?
Said 2916.
Thanks for watching. Now it's time to have some fun with the ideas of what devil fruit weapons could be like. We're starting with Zone because they already exist in the story, so we have a better point of reference. Now before I actually get into it, I want to go over why I don't want to see Zoro get a Zone sword. Well, that's not entirely true. I'd be fine with seeing him get one, but I prefer it to be his last one.
Yeah, you might answer
There
one of
are
my
three
questions.
types of devil fruits, and he does have 3 swords after all. Why I'm least excited to see him get a Zone sword is because it wouldn't suit his fighting style as well, and wouldn't display his personal skill as much. He's strong enough by himself, he doesn't really need help from an animal. But now that I think about it, he could get a mythical Zone sword, which would add special powers to his blade. And it wouldn't be so bad for him to have an ally.
Let me ask you something, because you said Zoro, you wouldn't want to see him get. I don't like. I think, like, think about it. You know, I think, you know, some swords could have zone, but think about it. Like, I forget which sword it was, but like he can almost create, like remember back in Ennis Lobby when he fought Kaku, he like one of his after like that point he became Ashura, almost like a god. You know what I'm saying? Like Ashura, the Hindu god, right? So, and if you think about it, that could be kind of a zone type ability to almost manifest a Hindu god such as Ashura. Kind of like how we got Sengeko who manifests Buddha. You know, that's a zone. That'd be like the zone devil fruit. So him being like Ashura, that's almost like a zone Hindu god. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just kind of what I'm thinking.
While he's using 2 sword style. In fact, that kind of sounds awesome. Didn't give Zone swords enough credit at first. Okay, so a Zone weapon, as we already seen, can operate all on their own. Meaning, the user doesn't have to be a very skilled fighter. They just need to be the very best, like no one ever was. What would a Zone Devil Fruit do for a skilled warrior such as Zoro?
I see what
had a Zone Devil Fruit and incorporated into Santorio, give him a variety of possible benefits depending on the animal, such as a sword being able to be tougher, swifter, extended reach, possibly even granting the sword flight. The haki between sword and master would probably be connected, so whatever heightened senses of the animal that the sword gains, the master probably will as well. An elephant could gain more reach, a bull could add more thrusting strength, a wolf could heighten the senses and killer instinct. A spider zone could possibly produce webs, turn into 8 blades, and be venomous.
Bro.
So many possibilities. Even more wonderful with the mythical zone. Okay, so let me just go across the mythical zone. We have Marco. The Phoenix Devil Fruit produces flames. It's a bird, so it can fly, and it has regenerative properties. So it's a sword that would probably be able to heal.
You kind of answered my question
set
there.
things on fire, and itself could probably fly around the place. I mean, that just sounds awesome off the bat. Then you have Sengoku, who Buddha. When you look into haki, it's all about the spirit. So I can imagine the Buddha Devil Fruit probably makes haki stronger, which would be great for a swordsman. And probably wouldn't be too bad to have a Buddha as a partner that fights alongside you. Kaido, dragon. A dragon sword would have super long reach. Dragon's breath, dragon's fire.
Yeah.
One thing that'd be cool if you
maybe it could fly, you know what I'm saying? And think if Zoro, like I said, if Zoro could I got Rohel Doreen said VOA for your information. Voice of all things. Is that what you're saying? Voice of all things for your information? Yeah. I think he talked about the voice of all things earlier, but yeah, I think that's what you're trying to get. If I'm wrong, Rahel, correct me. Correct me. But if you're talking about the voice of all things, I think he did mention that. But I will have him in the stream. So feel free to stay. I'm gonna probably add him in a little bit. Feel free to stay and. Definitely bring that up to ELiDZ himself. You know what I'm saying? like to gain any clarity or give any clarity. Like maybe I'm missing something. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm gonna let it continue.
If you remember Momo, he was able to create clouds that he can step on. So I can imagine a sword user, that'd be really cool to have. Just a whole bunch of stepping platforms that are cloud. You have the nine-tailed fruit. I think that would be amazing. You'd have probably some kind of whip or something function on the hilt of the sword that could be used for grabbing. That would be the tails of the sword. And the sword itself, well, what does the devil fruit of the nine tails do? Well, it could transform into different people. So I could imagine a sword that was the nine tails could transform into different weapons. So it probably wouldn't be as powerful as the previous three that I just said, but has a crazy amount of versatility. And then you have the Yamato no Orochi. I think this one's pretty easy to think. One, it would have reach, really long reach.
Multiple blades.
It'd be fast and nimble like a snake, and it'd be an 8-headed blade, so it'd probably be a sword that can split into 8 different blades. I mean, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, that about covers it for the zones that I really wanted to talk about. Let's move on to Paramecia. It's hard to pinpoint what a Paramecia sword would be like because a Paramecia could pretty much be anything. Yeah. So I'll limit myself to focusing on just 5 Paramecias first, and then I can talk about others later. I'm starting off with the Super Nomi. This was the first one that came to mind. Initially I thought it'd be pretty useless because what are you gonna do, turn a sword into more steel? But that's not all that the Super Nomi does. It's not that it would be
to me that's like the equivalent of a human having like Chopper's devil fruit. You know what I'm saying? But think about it. But I don't know, like I feel as though if somebody had Chopper's devil fruit, they could probably become a ascended being, you know what I'm saying? Like a ascended human. So maybe a blade with that, it could become an ascended blade or something. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there.
It would have changed the material of the blade, which would be redundant, but also that it could change the shape. The super sword would probably be able to grow and branch out other types of weapons. Secondly,
or maybe it could also give the user ability. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe it could, the user could almost becomes, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe they could almost use the ability on like their arm or something. Like I don't know, because if somebody like Hawkins could extend his devil fruit, if like Hawkins and Law could extend their devil fruits through their swords, why couldn't a sword extend their devil fruit through the user? You know what I'm saying? So in that case, if somebody had like Mr. One's devil fruit, like it might be limited, of course, but if somebody had Mr. One's devil fruit, maybe they would be granted some of that ability as well. You know what I'm saying?
Nomi of Buggy the Clown. The fruit immune to cutting, paired up with being a sword itself, would end up being a double-edged sword. Of course, I don't mean that literally.
I think I want to stop it here. Unless ELiDZ, you want me to keep going? Like I said, I don't want to go through the whole video. I want to leave some for, you know what I'm saying. So I'm gonna stop it here. So guys, if you guys want to watch the full video, unless ELiDZ tell me he want me to continue, I'll continue. But if you want to watch the full video, I know we skipped some stuff, we skipped some things, some explanations, for the sake of time and everything. But if you want to watch the full video, the link will be in the description. Make sure you go there, at least go and give him a like. And subscribe to his channel because he comes up with a lot of great video, like a lot of great theories and stuff. But you don't have to take my word for it. We're about to bring him in. If he is ready to go, let me know in the chat if you're ready to go, ELiDZ, because I'm about to bring you in. My guy. Everybody, just give me a couple minutes. I'm gonna prepare for him to join. Or you know what? Matter of fact, I'm gonna just join him in right now. Oh, you want me to continue? He said he wants me to continue. We gonna continue, guys. We gonna continue. We gonna continue with the video.
Maybe that wasn't the best figure of speech, but my point is, it would be sacrificing defense for more offense. Whenever you use it against other cutting weapons, the broader sword wouldn't be able to defend against another sword, because obviously any other sword would go right past the broader Nomi sword. But this also means that the broader Nomi sword can go past any defense of any other sword, so it's just a whole bunch of offense and barely any defense. What would be really cool about the broader Nomi sword would be the fact that it can separate into many pieces and fly around. For those who know of Bleach, there's a character named Byakuya. Think about the Zenbone Sakura. A sword blade scattering and following its opponent is so powerful and threatening. The Hana Hananomi of Robin. Like I said with the Super Nomi, the Hana Hananomi could also branch out the blade and extend itself. However, it'd be much more powerful in this scenario, because not only would the blade shapeshift, it could also sprout off and spawn in far distances. This making the blade both a close range and long range ability.
Section, and the fifth
then add
one
the fact
I made
that
myself.
full body clones are possible to make. Thus, 2 sword style and higher is now accessible. Finally, Robin has the ability to make giant arms, so the sword would have the ability to make giant blade. How I'd imagine a sword master wielding a Hana sword would use it is in 2 phases. A sheathed form, as implied the sword is still in its scabbard, however the blade can sprout out of the sword master's body. That's when all of its abilities are released. I think it'd be cool if the unsheathed version is mistaken for a sword master having the Super Nomi or other similar fruits.
Yeah.
The 4th one I want to talk about is the Kage Nomi. To start off, it can cut
you can't see the video?
which at daytime...
Sorry, y'all. Sorry, but that's my fault. I was about to change. Oh, my bad. So, he talked about the Hana. Did y'all at least hear it? Hopefully y'all at least heard. Hopefully y'all should have heard it, cause yeah. But yeah.
Time would disintegrate the opponent, and at nighttime would at least knock them out. Then the sword itself can have its own shadow clone, which would allow for 2 sword styles. Even in 1 sword style, manipulation of the shadow would manipulate the physical shape of the sword, so once again allows for shape-shifting swords. It can absorb shadows. It could also gain strength by absorbing other shadows. Talk about a whole new...
I was literally just about to say that. I'm kind of... Okay. I was just about to say, bro, like, just imagine if like a sword like that could like just absorb other shadows, or like maybe bend shadows to its will. You know what I'm saying?
New way to forge a black sword. And I'm sure because the sword master is holding the Kage Nomi sword, their own shadow will be manipulated as well. Have you seen Soul Eater? In it, a character named Blackstar has a partner that also happens to be his sword. The sword can manipulate his shadow. Not going off topic, but shout out to Shadowstar. The 5th one I'll make up myself. I'll call it the Kage Nomi. Wait, didn't we just do that? Oh, okay, it's called the Koge Nomi. And them sounding similar is just a coincidence. It means scorched fruit. Now, you might be thinking One Piece already has enough fire-like devil fruits, but I promise.
Let me know if you just want me. Let me know if you want me to finish the video, because I could stop it. I could stop it after you finish talking about this Koge. Let me know if you want me to continue, okay? ELiDZ.
I promise this one's different. Since I'm making up a fruit, I might as well make up a swordsmaster. Her name will be Hotspur, and she's a knight of whatever the British Kingdom is called in One Piece. She's in full body armor, so is often mistaken for the man, and that's enough for her backstory. The scorched fruit is similar to the character from My Hero Academia named Tenya, and his quirk is known as Engine. Engine grants Tenya engine-like protrusions somewhere on his body to allow him to move at extraordinary speeds. In Tenya's case, the engine-like protrusions appear in a specific location. However, this devil fruit can create mufflers anywhere on the body, or in this case, the sword. The devil fruit is pretty straightforward. It allows speed and flight. It's one of those devil fruits that are C tier because it only does one thing, but is really good at what it does. An example of this is Bellamy's spring devil fruit. It's not as versatile as the Gamu Gamu Nomi, which is also springy, but it's at least the best at being the spring. An even better example of this is Leo's Stitch fruit. Clearly Doflamingo's String Devil Fruit is better overall, but not only is Leo's Devil Fruit better at stitching, it's one that is suited for Leo given his size and speed. This is a Devil Fruit great for a sword. The engine-powered slices and thrusters will have much more force behind them, and the mufflers can point in any direction, allowing for immediate change in direction of any swing of the blade. The mufflers can be small or large. In battle, the sword usually uses a bunch of minuscule jets on the blade, which makes it appear as if the sword itself is on fire. The sword can be thrown at great velocities and accelerate even after leaving Hotspur's hand. Since the sword has a will of its own, it can fly and become a missile. That covers most of what it does unsheathed. When it is sheathed, it's strapped to the back of the knight, and in that state, the sword becomes a jetpack. Hotspur already uses jets in her armor. The jetpack just allows her to fly at a supersonic speed. Alright, let's have a lightning round and just go down the list of Paramecias. So we have the Gomu Gomu no Mi, obviously.
Okay. Cause now I was just starting to write. I'm just starting to write about some devil fruits that I you know what I mean. I'm just you making me think of some ideas of some devil fruits, man. I'm gonna bring you in. Give me since you say you ready. You said that you ready. You said that you ready. All right. Should be joining. Now, I feel like we about to have a just whole brainstorming session of different devil fruits. Paramecia devil fruits that I'm thinking like a earth devil fruit. Like just imagine like you could like use it as like a think of like what's his name? Karama from Yu Yu Hakusho, right? Mm-hmm. Like how he has the like the rose, how he kind of uses his the rose whip, like you use something like that, but then you can also like control earth or something like an earth bend. But you know, I don't want to talk about that just yet. Maybe we can have some fun a little later at the end of the stream. So everybody, I'd like to welcome Mr. ELiDZ himself, Elijah, one of my close friends. How you doing today, man?
Doing well.
Yeah, it was a good it was a good video. Very interesting. You know, a lot of information. Had me thinking of a lot. You know, sometimes some of that information would just hit me. I'm like, dang, man, I'm trying to keep up with it. Write notes.
Yeah.
I probably missed a lot of stuff. So, you know, sorry if I missed some stuff because I was writing it sometimes. So,
nah,
you know,
that's all right.
I might ask you. You know, some stuff I might ask you might have covered, but I probably kind of missed it. So, sorry for that in advance. But
never be sorry for that, especially when watching my videos. Yeah. One of my favorite shows is called Arrested Development.
Oh, I like that.
And in that show,
British eyes only.
Yeah, they have joke after joke after joke after joke after joke. It's just an overload of jokes.
Yeah.
But the point of it is you're not going to get all the jokes in one sitting. And that's what I love about that show is you can keep rewatching it and enjoying it and seeing different jokes.
My favorite go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was going to say my favorite
with my videos. It's just like if you watch it the first time, I want it so that if you were to watch it another time, you could get a new thing, a new perspective and stuff like that.
I got you. I mean, I was just going to say my favorite joke on there it's like when they call each other chicken and they don't know how chickens act. Like I'm like, it's like a long running joke. Like, but, well, I don't want to talk about that. But I mean, I'll let you kind of open since you know you just kind of came on. If there's anything you kind of want to go over before I start.
Another thing that I want to get away, people to take away from my video is the thought of, well, what could I build off this theory, or what could I think of? Which is a big reason why I like these type of theories rather than plot line or this character's backstory stuff, because those are so limiting. It's like this is what I think's gonna happen in the story. This is what I thought happened. I like these kind of theories because I can say, well, this could create a devil fruit sword of Paramecia. So
Mm-hmm.
now you can think of, oh, what kind of Paramecia devil fruits could there be?
And I was just thinking that too. I'm thinking of like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't want to go yet because I do kind of want to. It'd be nice just to kind of maybe think of a few swords at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
stream. Like some that you may not have thought of. Just for fun. Maybe people
Exactly.
watch this video. Maybe they could give some ideas of some Paramecia swords. Because I mean, look, it's already established in the series that inanimate objects such as swords can have devil fruits.
Mm-hmm. So
So
far only zones, but that's the point of my theory is to say, hey, maybe it's not just the zones.
yeah, yeah. So going in, um, I wanted to ask you this. Like, how do you think? I guess, like, because I might have misinterpreted. So correct me
Mm-hmm.
again. Because I
Yeah.
this I kind. How do you think like Conqueror's hockey creates like black blades, or do you think that's like how? Yeah, how do you think like
I think
instead of
that
like armament?
yeah, I don't think that Conqueror's hockey makes black blades as opposed to armament.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true for curse blades. Uh, with black blades, it's clearly armament. Now, does Conqueror's hockey play a role in it? Definitely. Conqueror's hockey seems to be what it is that breaks limits. That's what I think Conqueror's hockey really is.
Okay.
It it ascends you, kind of like you were saying, like if someone ate the human fruit, right? It's about achieving
Like
some
awakening.
kind of transcended state. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
awakening.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that's really what Conqueror's hockey's true potential is.
Yeah.
So I do think Conqueror's hockey plays a role in making black blades, but it black blades are made from armament hockey because armament is the physical manifestation of the spirit. That's why Zoro can hold Shishui and notice that it's literally heavier
Yeah.
than a normal blade because it's physically present. That hockey is there.
Yeah.
Conqueror's hockey is intangible. That's
Yeah.
why I think that Conqueror's hockey affects curse blades, but not exactly. Uh, you can't say that, oh, this black blade is cursed because it has hockey. It doesn't work that way because that's armament, and it doesn't even work with just saying, oh, the Conqueror's hockey's in this sword because it's cursed. Because for one, I say in the video, the very first video, it's not really a curse. That's really what made me want to remake this video was because I said that 2 years ago, and now
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago, we get a chapter where the guy literally says, swords are not cursed.
They're just
It's
quality.
the will we put into these swords.
Yeah. So
So I was
so
like, oh, wow.
cause I think you answered one of my questions, but just to kind of just to because I had another question that I was going to ask, but I think you just answered it. So just to kind of reiterate, I'm gonna answer. So is so you believe that like being a cursed sword is a prerequisite of achieving a black blade? Like it has to be a
No,
cur.
I don't think so. I think that what cursed blades do, it's almost at first it seems like a detriment, but then it actually turns out to be an advantage. And by that, what I mean is because it has this almost will of its own and it can be disobedient of the swords master, that's
Mm-hmm.
obviously not great.
It's picky.
What it does is it lets the sword master know, hey, wait, this sword has a will of its own. What's going on here? I thought this was just an inanimate object.
Yeah.
And I think that most swords have wills of their own. It's just curse blades in particular have a more deadly and disobedient will of
Okay.
their own. In fact, if we go and look at that chapter I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
with that Shimotsuki
Yeah.
elder, that's the swordsmith. I forget what his name is, Kaze something or whatever, but you know who I'm
Kazaboro.
talking about.
Kazaboro.
Yeah,
I think something
Kazeboro.
like that.
He doesn't even particularly say curse blades, have a will or a purpose. He says named blades,
Mm.
blades that have names, because when uh you're creating the blade, you're giving it an identity. And that's probably the very first step in making it have a will and purpose of its own.
Yeah.
That's just the power of creation. That is something that in the secret endings that you just skipped, the intermissions, that's something I talk about. That if anybody watches the full video, I definitely don't skip it when you're watching my video, because the whole reason I show in the intermission, I show clips from my Understanding Hockey series, is because in the first video, which I made way before the Understanding Hockey, I didn't even think that way when I was making the Cursed Blade video. I didn't say why Conqueror's Hockey would give Cursed Blades the sword, because I didn't know back then. I just had a hunch. I'm just like, I think this is Conqueror's Hockey. Now that I know all that I've learned from making my Understanding Hockey, now I'm sure that it's Conqueror's Hockey because it makes so much sense. I have my Chakra Hockey theory, and the highest chakra is called the Crown Chakra.
Yeah.
And the chakras below it, they have elemental things: fire, water, wind. That's a lot easier to grasp. Oh, that's an element of fire and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But
I'm thinking Brooke for some reason.
crowns, yeah. Oh, complicated Brooke. The crown chakra, right, Bull King. The crown chakra element is thought. It's not rock or earth. It's not fire. It's none of that. It's literally just thought, because thought is creation. Thought is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about Hockey from that perspective, which is literally called the crown chakra, conquers like a king.
Yeah.
It makes so much sense.
It does.
It makes sense why the will of the swordsmith using Conqueror's Hockey, giving thought to this sword. Now the sword itself has a consciousness. Mm-hmm. It may not be like a regular human consciousness where the sword's thinking about, oh, I wonder what show I want to watch on Netflix. Like it's obviously not an elaborate consciousness. It usually just has a purpose. Oh, I just want to cut down. I want to cut. I'm a sword. I want to cut. It probably just says a few sentences in its consciousness.
Yeah.
Unlike a developed human, but it's a consciousness nonetheless. I actually will use this as an opportunity to address something in the chat. It said the voice of all things, to which I did not really talk about the voice of all things in this theory. I talked about the breath of all things.
Oh, okay. Oh, that thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe that person was trying to like say, hey, what about the voice of all things? Or trying to say that I was talking about the voice of all things, but I'm not. In my Understanding Hockey series, that was one of the very first things I talk about in my Understanding Hockey series. The first video is the difference between the breath of all things and the voice of all things. Because when Zoro's detecting the breath of all things, he's only detecting breathing.
Mm-hmm.
But because he's detecting breathing, he's detecting a consciousness. It's just the baseline of a consciousness is breathing. I mean, even plants breathe in a way. They have their own, like, it's just breathing. But the voice of all things, you're getting words. You're getting a message. That's kind of like a higher level of consciousness.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Luffy. It's kind of like Luffy when he hears Zo, or when he hears the Sea Kings. You know, even as opposed to Zoro never heard Zo or
no, he didn't hear
none of those. But he does have that like when he was talking about cutting anything or cutting anything or nothing, like you talk about it. But yeah, but that kind of make lead me into another question, like about Zoro, right? Because you said, I guess cursed swords could kind of be a detriment at first, but then I guess, and that kind of led me to believe something I said in my stream, right? Because I was kind of comparing. Like, I'm gonna be dropping the video, I think, in 2 days. It's from my stream. It's a clip from my stream. It's comparing Zoro and Sanji, like the power gap in them, and one thing I said, I'm not gonna go too much into it. I said, I believe at this moment, Sanji could potentially, like with his evolution of his body, he could potentially be stronger than Zoro at this moment. But the thing with Zoro is he has at least for this arc, he has a higher ceiling, because right now he hasn't fully tamed Enma. So once I believe he tames Enma, he's going to, I guess, like, skyrocket. Like,
Yeah.
so but yeah. So what was I gonna say? And from that chapter, one thing that kind of one thing that stuck out to me was the scene. It was a very small panel at the end of the chapter. I think it was on the and we see all his swords radiating. And I'm thinking, because with that chapter, kind of what I got from that chapter was Zoro getting a deeper connection with all his swords, not just Enma, but all his swords. Like we see him we see when I guess King knocked him down and he lost control of his swords, and then he's kind of going back in his mind about each of these swords that he got and the history of him having these swords, and then at the end of the chapter we see like his swords all like radiating. You know what I'm saying? So like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, are we seeing these swords become black swords, or like, what did you get from that hockey radiation? Because I only seen that from Enma, and I've never seen that from the other two.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what I was saying even back then in my theory, where I was saying, give devil fruits to a cursed sword and it could use Logia or Paramecia because it has a consciousness. But then towards the end I say, well, actually, not just cursed swords, even the Wado Ichimonji. It's not a cursed sword, but I think it could use Logia or Paramecia. Why? Because the sword master needs to seek the consciousness in the sword. And that's why I say the cursed swords are a benefit, because it's letting the sword master know there's a consciousness in this sword, and it could let them know that there's a consciousness in all of these swords.
Yeah.
Something that if someone never had a cursed blade, it might take them longer to realize that. So the fact that they get a cursed blade, it probably gets them further along in that enlightenment, really. It's getting that knowledge. So with him doing that to all of his swords, I think that's Conqueror's Haki. Because that's what started this whole thing in the beginning with the cursed swords. The fact that Conqueror's Haki affected the cursed sword. So remember when the shamisen activated Enma?
I was just about to ask you that, like, cause when I read that chapter, I think the first time when the shamisen, I'm like, is Hiyori really there, or is it like did Enma kind of manifest Hiyori? But then I was like, no, I do think that is Hiyori. I think she probably was foreshadowed in the beginning of Onigashima when it was like this little clue that somebody was following them. And at first I was like, could that be Otama, or could that? I think a lot of people thought it was Yamato, but then I think Otama came, and I was like, well, could that have been her? And I was like, I don't think it was her, because she came a little later with enemies and stuff. So I'm like, nah, that's probably Hiyori. So I'm thinking, why did the shamisen react to Hiyori? Is it that connection that she has as a Kazuki? Why didn't it react to Momonosuke then? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's the perfect point to bring up. So, and this is something I include in this very video, because I made sure to pick and choose certain clips from Understanding Haki to apply to this video because it's relevant. And I talk about Brook, not just because he's a swordsman. In fact, in my Understanding Haki, I talk nothing about Brook's sword. That's I'm going to talk about in part 4. But nothing about Brook's sword do I talk about in Understanding Haki in the clips I use in this video. What I talk about is his connection to Conqueror's Haki and his connection to music.
Okay.
And he is the Soul King. Why is he considered the Soul King? Not even because of his devil fruit, but because of his music.
Yeah.
Because there's a connection between music and soul. And I think it's a very deliberate thing in One Piece. One of the points I make to show this isn't even like a manga or research from real world, but just the evidence that Whole Cake Island is the most musical arc of One Piece.
Yeah,
and what is the primary thing in Whole Cake Island? Big Mom and the Soul Devil Fruit. And who gets one of the most shine?
Brook.
the Soul King. It's there's a point to it. A big theorist, Joy Boy, he made a whole video about it, like I think less than a year ago, where he was talking about how there's so many connections. You know, when I saw him make that video, I went, okay, I am onto something. Because if someone like that can notice it, and a bunch of people else can notice it, I know that Oda's making a deliberate point to show that there's a connection between sound, soul, and music. I even have a whole video where I say I think that what's his name, the long arm guy, Apu. Apu's devil fruit, I believe, is an application of Conqueror's Haki.
Yeah.
The way his devil fruit works, to me, is a lot like Conqueror's Haki. What I think Conqueror's Haki can do is it bridges the gap between the spiritual and the physical. There's armament physically manifests whatever the spirit, but Conquerors can do something even better, which is take something that is like almost of like the mind, make it physical. Look at Ashura. Ashura, all the way back before we even knew what Haki was as a concept, it was something that Zoro could do and like physically manifest. When Kaku was looking at Zoro, he's like, this guy has so many heads and arms. It wasn't like a genjutsu, it wasn't an illusion. He literally had it there.
Yeah, I always thought it was something with his sword, the cursed sword, the sheesh, you know. I always thought it was like, So, and like you saying,
that could be very well possible, and it makes sense because a cursed sword could be a lot like a devil fruit without it already being completed.
Yeah.
Because like I said, my understanding Haki theory goes is that what I think a devil fruit is, it's the end journey of what a Haki master can be.
Yeah.
I think that people like Shanks and Mihawk have powers like that of a devil fruit without having a devil fruit because they went through the hard work.
That's why they don't
The
need
people who got devil fruits, they kind of cheated, which may be why they're called devil fruits in the first place. It's kind of like making a deal with the devil.
Yeah. So let me read a comment real quick. My boy Shane Burns. What's up, Shane? How you doing, man? He says, I thought that cursed swords weren't really cursed. That was just swordsmen. Swordmen that couldn't handle the name blades. Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about that. Like, we're just calling them cursed swords for the sake of that's kind of what we always call them. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know, that's just it's just easier to identify them. Like, cause the I read the official, and official he says cursed swords aren't cursed, but they're just high quality swords. That's what Cozy World. And it's just, you know, people who can't handle them call them cursed. Like, that's basically his. So basically what you said, Shane. But you know, we're just calling them cursed for the sake of. It just sounds better than just saying high quality swords, or you know what I'm saying. Like,
well, I think we're calling them cursed for more than just them being high quality, because Wado Ichimonji is high quality.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I say in the theory in one of the secret ending sections is if all cursed swords do is just disobey their master sometimes, like what's the point? If you could already get something like the Wado Ichimonji, which is the same grade, that doesn't really make sense. Like, are you just getting something that's worse? But it's like they have different individuality, they have different consciousness. I think cursed swords are just more deadly and ferocious, and the primary reason it's called cursed is because swords don't act on their own. That just doesn't happen. They're inanimate objects. That's literally the main point. If you take away that, then there's nothing that would make them seem cursed. So the whole mystery to, you know, go over is, well, why do they act on their own in the first place? And so Conqueror's Haki, I believe, is more synonymous with the soul. That's a huge thing I go over in One Piece, because spirit and soul, maybe some people might think they're the exact same thing, but they're not really the same thing. The spirit and the soul, it's this difference is subtle, and I'm not even gonna go into it. I explain it way better when I'm reading a script for my video than I can here. I feel like if I try to explain it, I might just be more confusing than anything. But if you just take that into account, that the soul and spirit can be different, the way I apply it to One Piece and Haki is that spirit is like that energy that can't word right now that emanates, that projects when they're using like armament, that energy around them,
Mm-hmm.
that spirit. But the soul is like, it's that person, it's
It's
that their
that being,
feelings,
their
their
being.
thoughts. Yeah, it's that what's inside of them. It's that thing that left Brooks' body and came back to his skeleton. That's the
The
soul. The spirit is just more like the
a
energy.
projection, maybe.
Yeah, it's like an energy source. In fact, that's why there's a difference between the breath of all things and the voice of all things. The breath
Yeah.
is just like the essence. It's called the chi, or ki in Japanese. That's why there's a difference between ki and haki. It's
I'm
literally just
I'm
one
glad you
character
point.
difference.
I'm glad you pointed that out because somebody we got Chain Benny, Shane. I don't know if it's Chain or Shane Benny. He said VOTFY. I think he means voice of all things. I'm not. I think that's what he's trying to say. But yeah, but I'm glad you brought it. You addressed the whole voice of
Mm-hmm.
all things and breath of all things and that difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you brought it back up because kind of
Yeah.
answered. That was a good response to him without even. But go ahead. I'm sorry if I interrupted. My bad.
Yeah, but that's just like my fast way of explaining the difference between a spirit and a soul, and why
Mm-hmm.
the soul is like the conqueror's hockey that affects it. That's why the soul fruit is so similar to conqueror's hockey.
Where armament
Um,
would probably be more like the spirit, would you
it's
say?
like
And then
when
maybe
everything.
observation is more like being able to sense that spirit. What
Exactly.
I would think.
That's exactly it. That's what makes devil fruits. It's that cycle, or like that completion of it. The armament makes the the spirit like physical. The observation detects that spirit. Like you have to detect it in the sword or within yourself in a place. And the conquerors is the soul itself. That's who you are. You
Mm-hmm.
know, Zoro isn't just some guy who trained hockey. Zoro is a guy that creates a uh
Uh,
ashura.
yeah,
Just like
a
Sanji's not
spirit.
just some guy who can use special types of armament. He heats up with fire because he's a cook. It's like there's an individual individual proportion to it, which is the soul in Conqueror's hockey.
Got you. It makes sense. I mean,
There was
that was a good breakdown. I actually never even looked at it like that. Like
mm-hmm.
you put some things together for me. I didn't even realize I needed put. So I want to ask you this. Like why do you believe that, like, let's say Shanks don't have a black blade despite being somebody with Conqueror's hockey, or like
Mm-hmm.
like I would say Whitebeard, his I don't remember his it wasn't a sword, it's like a staff with a blade, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what his with the weapon is called, but
Mm-hmm.
like why wasn't his black? Like is there like, I guess, a prerequisite that you like a some type of method, or
Mm-hmm.
that you need in order to actually make a blade black, other than
Mm-hmm.
just hockey? Because they both got conquerors and armament. They both got like all three hockeys,
Oh,
so
they're hockey masters without a
yeah.
doubt.
But why
I
don't they
think
have the black blade? Are they missing something? They not real swordsmen? Is it
I
just
don't
that
think it's that.
swordsman soul, that swordsman spirit?
Um, no, I don't think that. Roger and Shanks are definitely swordsmen. That's without a doubt. I think what it is, it has to do with that individual, uh, the individual aspect where everybody is their own person and they're gonna have their own journey and goes about things in their own way. So think about this: if I'm saying that devil fruit abilities are made from people who mastered hockey. Well, not all devil fruits are the same. There's not only are they different, but there's different types, right? There's someone that can be a zone, there's someone that can be a logia, and there's someone that can be a paramecia. And all three of those types are somebody that became enlightened, that went through their journey. if you think about it from that perspective. And they just all went about it in different ways. So whatever Mihawk did was his journey, and he attained his power in his way. I would say that there's a good chance he's just better suited. Uh, he has an affinity towards probably observation armament more than Shanks, and Shank has more an affinity towards conquerors. So if he's focusing more on conquerors, he's probably doing some more outlandish, creative things with his abilities that he can manifest that aren't as focused on his sword, as opposed to Mihawk, who probably dedicates whatever enlightened path he went towards to his swordsmanship.
Yeah.
And I would say what's important for swordsmanship more than anything would probably be observation and armament. Because when you think about the breadth of all things, and I think that was really the cornerstone of Zoro's potential and the path he was going to go on. That's easily one of the most important, if not the most important fight in part one.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's just the most important.
He's
had good fights after that, but the one in Alabasta I think was his most important.
Yeah.
Because it goes back to his roots, who he is, to where he comes from, and it connected him to Wano in a way we didn't know back then. But if you look back in hindsight, you realize that had to do with Wano, him getting the breath of all things. And what is the breath of all things? Well, he can detect things around him and to let him cut Dazbone. Right? Observation and armament. That's pretty much what it is.
Mm-hmm.
At its core. I don't think it has to do with conquerors, because what's his name? Hyogoro talked about basically the breath of all things. He said everything about the breath of all things without saying the breath of all things when he's talking about Ryo in the prison. And if he's talking about it like anybody that becomes a samurai can get that ability, then not anybody can be conquerors. I just think having conquerors is quintessential if you want to be the best. But that mastering conquerors is more for people like Luffy, Shanks, Roger.
Yeah, I would think Mihawk too, since he's like could say he's like the king. He could say he's the king of swordsmen. You know, being the greatest swordsman is like, you know, I got somebody saying Jessica Fisher saying VOH. I think it's kind of a troll at this point, honestly.
Yeah, it must be like.
I think it's just I think it's like a troll at this point. But but yeah, so all right, so yeah, that makes sense because like maybe Mihawk just kind of went through. He's more spiritual. Like I would say, he's probably more spiritual than Shanks. Like he kind of takes being that swordsman more serious, kind of like Zoro as well. Like Shanks is a swordsman, but he doesn't like he parties. He does other stuff. He's also, you know, he got other stuff. He can't just be, you know, not saying he ain't good with a sword. You know, I know he good, but that's not his life. You know, that's where Mihawk is more. His life is the sword, the blade. You know, so maybe reaching that level of, you know, awakening, you know, maybe will give you what you need to blacken that sword. You know, at least that's what I'm getting from you. What you said.
Yeah, along the lines, the only thing is I would say is a hippie playing the drums on a subway in New York could be just as spiritual as a well-dressed priest in a church. So by that, what I'm saying is, even though Shanks is a bit more of a rowdy person, more carefree, less structured, I don't think that would make him less spiritual. They could be just as spiritual to each other. I think Mihawk is probably more rigid and structured and disciplined. I think that's what I'm saying. Discipline. And if you look at Zoro, he is the most disciplined of them all. You might not think of it at first glance, but if you paid attention to the series, you would find bits and pieces. You would see he's a very disciplined person. First of all, he works out. Nobody else on the ship you ever see regularly work out.
That's why I'll be wondering how they so strong. Like how Sanji be keeping up with Luffy, and because at least Luffy, he fights constantly. Like Luffy probably fights the most out of all of them. So, you know, he gets his training through the fire, you know, being put through the fire. As for Zoro, on the other hand, you know, Zoro doesn't have a devil fruit like Luffy, and he's not like a genetic beast, even though that didn't really come about until previously, like Sanji, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, it works out, which takes discipline. And he even meditates. He's not religious, but he meditates.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what sets apart someone like Mihawk and Zoro from someone like Shanks and Luffy, who which I
Yeah.
think their spiritual nature comes really their freedom and their ambitions and the fact that they can just enjoy life for what it is.
Yeah.
And that is a very spiritual concept in itself.
But Zoro and I would say Mihawk, their freedom comes from more of a disciplined approach. And as it sounds kind of hip, like not hypocritical. It sounds like, I guess, ironically, like to say like you would think a discipline kind of boxes you in, kind of locks you into something, but that's kind of where their freedom is, because they have a goal. They like, look, I want to be the best swordsman. The sword is my life. You know, all that other stuff, ambition and stuff. My ambition is the sword. You know, so having that type of honing in.
Yeah.
You know,
they can be in a box, but they're free to choose to be in that box.
Exactly.
And I think that's kind of like what they show with themselves.
Yeah.
And the three main guys, they show something like Luffy's ambition, Zoro it's discipline, and Sanji it's conviction. Yeah. Sanji's character is always about, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, and I'm gonna stick to my principles.
Yeah.
And
even as far as Sanji destroying his raid suit because he thought he would become like his brothers, and he just didn't want to be like, he's that stubborn, you know. Yeah, like I remember talking about that in my stream. I was kind of like, yeah, Sanji just got that stubbornness about him.
Yeah, but, and I bet that strengthened his hockey. And with Zoro, you know, when he's like, Enma is taking all this hockey from me. I can't survive this. I'm gonna die if I keep on fighting like this. But then he's like, and that's how it's supposed to be, because hockey blooms on the battlefield. If he were to think, oh, I'm gonna die, so I shouldn't be doing this, Enma would probably never listen to him ever again, and his hockey would be stifled, and he wouldn't grow stronger.
Exactly.
So it's all about conviction. It's just as much about the mind as it is working out.
Yeah, so you kind of answered one of my questions. Like, I was gonna say, does a connection need to be made in order for a sword to become black? And you know, we kind of talked about that. It's kind of that discipline more so, you know, and that creates that connection. You know, like seeing Zoro always taking care of his blade, and it's just, you know, like it creates a connection, and then him having these flashbacks.
Yes, and the swordsmith, the person that made it, because it's their soul they put into that sword.
Exactly. And I wanted to ask you something about something you kind of said in the video, and I kind of pointed out, you know, and this little off topic. It's on topic of the video, but off topic of the swords. And it was about you said a C prism weakens hockey.
So it weakens the hockey. No, it doesn't weaken the hockey. It shuts off the hockey. Devil fruit users.
Oh, okay, devil. Yeah.
If it weakened, it would be a whole totally different argument. The fact that it shuts off is so significant because, look, Luffy could be beat up. He could be literally drugged by his opponent's little sister. Right? He could be on death's door, and his hockey may be weakened, but he can still use hockey.
Yeah.
That's a difference between him having the cuffs and not being able to use hockey at all. Because there was really no point in that prison while he had the handcuffs that he was ever in any shape that was really remotely bad to what we've seen Luffy go through. Yeah, he couldn't use hockey. So to say, well, he was weakened so he couldn't use hockey really doesn't work, because he's been so much more weak. He was fighting those Big Mom's children while starving. So he was hungry, he was getting beat up, and all of that. And he could still fight and all that. But when he wears the cuffs, he can be in good condition, but he can't use hockey.
So that's just for devil fruit users, right? Not
devil fruit users, yeah.
Okay, just
I don't think.
I didn't know. I thought
handcuffs.
Yeah, I kind of got it as like it was a, you know, like you know. So I just needed that clarification on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I wanted to ask, kind of on the subject of when you talk about Law and Hawkins and Fujitora, and I think Brooke. Would you say that like the sword kind of almost pseudo awakens their devil fruit, like some type of pseudo awakening, where
Yeah, I
it's
do
not like a
think.
real awakening, but it just kind of amplified, you know.
I do think that. Um, I think for one, like I said with Law, pretty much every single time you see him use that sword, he's using it with his powers.
Yeah,
That's something that's odd. It's like there's other people who have weapons and a devil fruit, but it's not like every single time they use the weapon or their devil fruit, it's at the same time. With Law's case and Fujitora, too, to add him in there, for some reason they use the sword and the devil fruits together. But in situations that it's like, do they even really need to use it in that way? Especially if Law's fruit is about cutting, and he can make a scalpel, or he could like summon like things
I mean, he
like
uses the
lightning
gamma
and all
knife with
stuff.
his hand, don't he?
Yeah, exactly. He could do things. So it's like, why does he need that sword if he can cut anyway? But I think that's the reason Oda made his sword cursed, which is something he revealed in the SBS. It's like he really went out of his way to just be like, this sword is cursed, by the way. And it's like, for what? Authors and Oda, when they put something in, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
It's this law called Chekhov's gun or something like that. It's like, if it's in the story, there's gonna be some relevancy to it.
I mean, you would.
We actually.
My bad.
Yeah, it's all right. I was gonna say we actually recently saw Law use his Devil Fruit Awakening, and what did he use with the Awakening? His sword, for whatever reason. It's not like he cut Big Mom. Yeah. He just put the power on his sword and used it to attack Big Mom.
I mean, you wouldn't think that maybe it's because they're just. I mean, I could probably say this more so for Fujitora at least, but even Law, you wouldn't think because it's more so just because they're swordsmen and it's more of a force of habit. Because think about it, if you was to give, if Zoro was to just, I don't know, be force fed a devil fruit, right, and he has these abilities, he doesn't really fight with anything other than the sword. So I would think if he had a devil fruit ability, he would probably just automatically use his devil fruit with his sword because he's just force of habit. You know what I'm saying? Law, I mean, he had Law though. I think had devil fruit when he was a kid though. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it could be.
Yeah, in Law's case,
it could also expand his reach though. Like maybe that's why Law uses it because it expands his reach, so as well as Fujitora.
It could, but doesn't he attack when he's in the room? He could attack somebody from afar with his sword. Law, if someone's 50 meters from him, but it's in the room and he slashes at them, he could hit them, regardless.
Yeah.
So it's how much reach does he need in that case, in that scenario?
I mean, I guess. But I mean, but I would think I don't know, I guess, but maybe if he had a room, it would. I don't know. Good point. I don't I'm trying to kind of.
That's just how if he has unlimited range in his room, he wouldn't really need something to help him with range.
But maybe I would say for Law, maybe it's just force of habit. For Fujitora, I think he, with gravity, you could kind of he kind of those slashes of gravity. You know what I'm saying?
You see, and that's how you would think he would use it, though. Yeah. He would thought slashes. He doesn't do that, though. He's like, let me pull out my sword so a meteor can fall down. What kind of sense does that make? It doesn't actually make sense. I do get the force of habit, but when you think of, the practicality of it, it doesn't match up. It's like him having a meteor come down has nothing to do with his sword.
Do you think he could just pull it down with his hand though?
Well, if you have that fruit, I would assume. That'd be weird if the fruit has to have a sword. That's just a weird requirement that you just wouldn't expect the fruit to just say you need a sword to do this completely irrelevant other task.
Yeah, because I kind of think of it like this. Think of Zoro for example, right? When or any other swordsman in One Piece, they could throw air slashes, right? So they could basically attack. That's like their long range attacks. So with Fujitora, he's basically throwing an air slash of his ability towards like something that might be somewhere in space that he couldn't just grab. You know what I'm saying? Because the slash itself is reaching the meteor. You know what I'm saying? And then it's using the ability to bring it down. Versus how far could he use with his hand? You know what I mean? I mean, Law, of course, you said his room, and that I can't really dispute that one, but but I don't know. With Fujitora, with Law, you kind of got me stumped, but like with Fujitora, I would think it's kind of like a air slash, like he's throwing a slash in the air, and it's imbued with his ability, and then once it gets with it once it touches it, what I mean, he could pull it down, like.
I mean, we would have to see the exact angle he's getting these meteors. I don't know if it like literally is 90 degrees above him or anything like that.
Yeah.
I do know he'll also use it to like fly around on rocks, and he's using a sword.
And he does use
things
it.
That doesn't make any sense. Like
he does use it to pin down too.
To levitate his a rock under his feet. Like if he's a gravity man, he could just, hey, rock, let's go up there. It's just really weird that he uses it in that way. But one of the things I say is it may not have to do with cursed sword in his case, but more the breath of all things. And him having the breath of all things would make so much sense. I mean, the guy's blind. So him being able to see not just people, but his environment. Because that's one of the big things about observation hockey, is that it lets you know living things' intent. Like when Luffy was fighting Katakuri, he could see Katakuri's soul basically trying to attack him. But he couldn't see anything else because Katakuri's alive. But if he has breath of all things, he can literally see like the chair next to him and all that stuff. So to him, I think there's a really strong case for that, which goes along with my theory.
Yeah. So do you kind of think that like maybe we've been kind of Oda kind of been bamboozling us this whole time, and Fujitora and Law really don't have devil fruit abilities, and it's just their swords.
Law definitely has the devil fruit ability. We saw him eat it.
Yeah.
But Fujitora, maybe. I mean, as far as we know, I think Oda did say he ate the devil fruit, but that would be an interesting twist.
I got you. It makes sense.
Hawkins, he uses his sword like a devil fruit awakening, and we know that he himself is a straw person.
Mm-hmm.
But the way him being a straw person works to me seems similar to Luffy being a rubber person.
Yeah.
And Luffy, if he had a sword, he's not gonna just turn that sword into rubber, unless if he was awakened. So the question is, Hawkins awakened?
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't really seem all that strong.
Yeah.
For him to be awakened, that'd be kind of questionable and also impressive. But that kind of goes along my thing where it might be helping. The sword itself might be helping him. I doubt he's like Zoro where he has the breath of all things.
Yeah. The thing about Hawkins, like pre-time skip, when he used his like straw man, like his straw man thing, he will become the straw man. But then when we seen him post-time skip, he just uses a sword to create the straw man. You know what I'm saying? And it's much bigger and everything. So
yeah.
But I'm kind of thinking that that could possibly be something with his cards as well, though. But I'm still kind of the mystery of Hawkins' card. Maybe they have hockey as well. I don't know. What if his cards had like a devil fruit? Like he got a deck of cards with a devil fruit.
That would be funny. The entire deck just.
But how like
one person?
Like they got the ability to boost people. Like I don't know. Man.
Well, if you look at Zoro, it's like Buddhism. If you look at Mihawk, maybe it's Christianity. Maybe that's just his faith, and he's like attaining devil fruit like powers through that medium.
Yeah, he is like a Spaniard. So, and Hawkins is like a voodoo. Think about like a voodoo doll. Voodoo powers. What are the tarot cards, all that stuff. But So, like, what do you think about like swords with actual devil fruits, like funk fruit? We kind of, I think you did kind of talk about, but
Yeah.
like, could it become black? You think like funk fruit could become black? I don't know. But
So the first thing I want to say about that is, in a recent SBS, Oda said all the non-devil fruit straw hats, what devil fruits would they get? And he said that Zoro would get Kaido's devil fruit, but it wouldn't be him, Zoro getting the devil fruit. It would be his sword. Which that made me feel kind of vindicated, because that's literally what I said in my video. I was like, I don't want Zoro to get the devil fruit.
which
Sword should get.
would it'd just be one sword though? Like, so it'd be like
Yeah, it would just be
the
one
Wado
sword, right?
Ichimonju or something, since that's like his most cherished sword, I would say.
I would hope so. Enma and Kaido's devil fruit have bad blood.
So yeah, I wanted to say, man, you answered one of my questions. I was going to ask you was, do you think that the Wado Ichimonju was cursed? Do you think it's capable of becoming the Black Sword?
Yeah, definitely. I don't. Even though it's not cursed, I would hope that if any of Zoro's swords became a Black Blade, if only one got to become a Black Blade, it would be Wado Ichimonji, because that's the sword that is most connected to him and his dream, because it's the promise he made to his best friend, to which he inherited her sword.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I always kind of say, man, like I I want to see Zoro have like a sword created for him. I think it's a little too late, but I think now it might be a little too. Well, I mean, I guess because we still in Wano, and it makes sense. If it don't happen after this arc, I don't believe it's gonna happen at all. But if let's say he gave Katetsu back, right, or Enma back, like let's say he gave Enma back, because he was just like, hey, this is Odin's sword, and I want to give it back to his daughter. So and maybe like Hitetsu, Tanguyami Hitetsu takes all the Katetsu blades. What? Hold on.
He only has two.
I think he only has. There's only two in Wano, right? Because one was broke. Did one break or something? I forget what.
The number one. There's a theory that the Kitetsu the first is
The
owned by
Gorosei?
one of the Gorosei, yeah.
Yeah,
But as of right now, officially, we have no answer as to where Kitetsu 1 is.
Okay, so Katetsu 1, which could probably possibly be like the best one, you know what I'm saying? If the Gorosei has it, I would think it's probably the best one. So if let's say we got because what was it? Katetsu 2 was the one Luffy had?
Yeah.
And Katetsu 3 is the one that Luffy or Zoro has. So if let's say he took let's say he was like, you know what, I'm gonna leave Shishui in Wano, right? I'm gonna leave Shishui in Wano because that's like, it's like I guess to them it kind of keeps that good luck. Like after Shishui left, that's when Kaido and everybody showed up, and they kind of blame that on that's why they was blaming Zoro at first. And then you look at Enma. Enma was inherited by Hiyori, and I would think that still would be a precious blade. So if maybe they take Shishui and or both Hitetsu blades, combine them into one, and create like one sword for Zoro, and then maybe that would be a dope setup for if he ever fought that one Gorosei guy, so, and it would be his blade like that. I think like I would like to see a blade actually made for Zoro, because all his blades he got was always he bought it, given to him, whatever. So if he had his own blade, I would love for that to happen and for him to make it a black blade. You know what I mean? That's kind of, I said that like a while ago in like a like a group chat we had on the Discord or whatever. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for questions. I kind of had some. I was listening to some dope swords with devil, like Paramecia devil fruits, like that'd be pretty dope. I think I came up with like the door fruit, Which I mean, maybe that wouldn't be that great. But like, let's say you slash and you could like create a big door. I don't know. Maybe not that one so much because I think that would be kind of redundant. But maybe like Foxy's Devil Fruit, for example. How he could slow down time. So it's like, you know, you throw like slashes that like slow whatever come, you know, like that'd be pretty dope. Earth, something to control Earth or something. Maybe like because we talking Paramecia, I'm thinking Logia. I was thinking of Aokijis, you know, like some ice, you know, but that might kind of look like Brooks. How Brooks fighting stuff.
Still work though.
Yeah, but hey, like anybody, you know, in the comment in the chat, you know, what would be some dope swords with like what would be some dope sword Paramecia combinations? You know what I mean? Like, you know, I can't really think of no more at the moment. You know,
I think the string fruit would work pretty well.
Yeah, because you could just turn a bunch of strings. And it's just so like the depth of Paramecia, man. The Robert, the Gomu, possibly. Like you could just stretch the sword. Yeah, man, I can't think of them right now. I'm not even gonna try to waste a bunch of time thinking of anything. But yeah, so that's pretty much what I got. I will let you have any, you know, if you want to got anything to say, promote yourself, man. The floor is yours, man. Let people know.
Just to add on to your idea of Zoro getting his own sword made for him, you know, I never thought about that till now. That's actually a neat idea, like him getting his own personal made sword. The only swordsmith currently really in the story would be Hitetsu, and he does kind of take a liking to Zoro, and he's like a really skilled swordsman. So maybe he would try to make Zoro a sword, and maybe he makes him a devil fruit sword. Because he has that teapot that is also a devil fruit. So maybe it's hard to imagine he'd get his hands on a devil fruit, but it's actually not that hard to imagine. Because if he got a teapot, he had to have some way of getting that devil fruit to the teapot. So maybe he has just a devil fruit lying around. Maybe he's tried to put a devil fruit in a sword before, and it never worked out. Like he tried to put a Logia or Paramecia in it, and nothing happens. And he's like, "Oh, this is a dud." But then maybe he's like, "Oh, maybe Zoro could figure out how to use this." Maybe he just has a smile devil fruit on his hand. He's like, "You know what? I'm gonna use this 1 out of 10 chance to try to make this sword have a smile devil fruit." And he just makes Zoro that type of sword. So yeah, I've never thought about that. That's a neat. And it would be cool to see Zoro have his own personal made sword.
And I was wrong. I'm sorry, I was wrong about him having to give Enma back because he would need at least Enma or Shishui for his third sword. Because I was down like, what's Zoro's third sword? I was like, he got the Wado Ichimonji. That's his personal most cherished sword, at least at the moment. He would have a personal sword made out of both of the Katetsus, and then he'd have either Enma or Shishui. I would probably say I don't know which one I would go with. That's the mystery, you know. Because Shishui is important to Wano, and Enma is important to the Kosuke, you know what I'm saying? But Shishui was given to him, and if you know, we learn that he is a Shimosuke, it would be an inherited sword, right? That's what I would think.
Say, hey, he's like. They even say, "Hey, he looks like Ryuma," and stuff like that. But yeah, that's about everything. For what I'm working on now, we've talked about this in the past, where I say I think there's a hell on One Piece, just like there's the Sky Islands called the Heaven's Gate. There's a place in hell, a place that's referred to as hell. It may not be literal hell, just like
the sky ends aren't literal heaven,
Bro, you about to open
but
up a
it's
new
a place
conversation. You
that
about to
resembles hell. And I'm calling it the Red Sea because you know, how, like in the sky, they call it the White Sea. So this place is called the Red Sea, and it's made from magma mixed with another chemical that is used to make the clouds in the sky.
yeah.
Because you know, they're not just regular clouds; they have this thing called pyrobloin. So I'm thinking if they mix magma with pyrobloin, maybe in this underground place, you know, because underground has magma in it,
Uh-huh.
they could have these islands on the Red Sea, and it turned from just that thought into so many things. I'm thinking maybe Lunarians gone there, and
You about
Lunarians could
to
have lived there before.
you about to open up you about to open up another discussion. Now I don't even want to end this
I'll
because
just list things off. I'm not gonna go into them, but I'm just gonna list these things off. I literally have a sticky note list of these things jotted off. But the theory itself is like 6 pages, and it's gonna be more. So Lunarians,
mm-hmm.
because one of the things Queen said was, I said I wouldn't go into it. He just said they lived in harsh environments, and a lot of people think that means the moon. But Enel went to the moon, and he was fine. It didn't seem so harsh. So maybe there's a place with really harsh environments, like hell.
But I would think in Nell's case, he's special. You know, being electric, he might not need to breathe. You know what I'm saying? You know, like I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I think
it's kind of, he can definitely start his own heart, but if he doesn't have oxygen, he can't do nothing with that.
I guess.
But I think there might be a place that actually really is harsh.
Yeah.
Like hell. Laugh-Tale could be there. You know, the greatest One Piece theories think that Laugh-Tale is under.
That's
what's under there.
They said it's. They said there's a theory video. I don't know if you watched it. The reaction video. It's like the best One Piece theory ever, and it was talking about how in his lobby, that waterfall, right? They said that could be where Laugh-Tale is. You know. But go ahead.
And the last thing. This is just so happened to be relevant all of a sudden because I've told you about this before. Like I say, just hell, and I think it's called the Red Sea. So I've been working on this for a while, and just recently they announced there's a movie coming out, One Piece Film Red. I was like, oh, that's such a weird coincidence. I'm just gonna, even if it doesn't make sense, like we don't have enough information, I'm just gonna tie it into my theory just to make it relevant because I'm working on the Red Sea, and now there's One Piece Film Red. Who knows? It might have something to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up Lunarian, and I don't want to go too much into it because I have a video because I talked about it in the last stream about the Lunarians and kind of my thoughts. You know what I'm saying? And I'm dropping the video from that stream tomorrow. You know, like I was working on check. You know, and I kind of just check it out. You know, I'm gonna drop it tomorrow. But one thing I was saying was about like. Cause you know Lunarians, like I'm thinking like they have something to do with the moon, right? You would think lunar, the moon. So, and Odin is or Wano is so centered on the moon. You know, we talk about the Koski clan. We always talk about the dawn before the dawn before the moon, I think, or the moon before the dawn or some shit like that. And
I remember you talking about this when I was watching it.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know, Lunarians, you know, like. You know who else I think could be a Lunarian is Tengu Hitetsu. He got those wings just like King. Like how many people you know in the series got wings like that? Too.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that.
And I even threw a third person, and it's gonna be I'm gonna talk about it now. But we don't know what Anel's wings look like.
Yeah, we don't.
Cause he, you know, he replaced it with that ring with the tamu drums on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we don't, you know, he could be a Lunarian, and you know, my kind of thoughts is that they may have been in the Void Century. They may have lost, you know, maybe they became slaves to the celestial dragons. I don't know.
Yeah, I got an interesting twist on why I think they could be called Lunarians. I'm going to go into it, but it'll make way more sense with the completed context. But I'll just say it now. They could be called Lunarians because they're a second class citizen, and there could be a higher class of citizens called the Solarians. The Lunarians are just like below them.
Yeah.
That's just something that came to me one day because they worship the sun a lot.
Yeah.
And there's the sun god and all that stuff. So it's really weird that for people who worship the sun so much, they call themselves Lunarian.
Yeah.
The one way that makes sense is if they're from the moon, and that's always a possibility. But if they're not from the moon and they worship the sun, then it'd be weird for them to call themselves Lunarians. I feel like they would more try to call themselves something to do with the sun.
Now that you said that, I actually do kind of have a bit of a theory that I kind of like some thoughts. Like I'm thinking the Lunarians, right? Because you look at the Lunarians, they look like their wings, like they're different from normal Scorpions. They look more like they have angel wings, right? Mm-hmm. Like they have angel wings. So I'm thinking like maybe the history of the Lunarians mirrors the Bible, and like if you're familiar with I'm pretty sure you are. You do a lot of research. So you look at you look at Lucifer, right? He was an angel. Mm-hmm. He was like God's best angel, most beautiful angel, all these things, and he rebelled against God, and he was basically cast out of heaven. And
I'm a fallen angel.
Yeah, a fallen, and I'm thinking maybe the Lunarians, because you talking about the Solarians, maybe the Lunarians were like rebels against the Solarians, and they were cast down.
Maybe went
from
to hell and went to the Red Sea. It all works. And you want to know something? You're drawing connections between Lunarians and Wano, and what does Wano have in the middle of it? A volcano.
Yeah.
Which would lead them.
Yeah.
Red Sea.
Yeah, so that's and maybe because King's wings are black, but Hatetsu's wings are white. Mm-hmm. So maybe Hatetsu could be if in fact there's a race of Solarians, maybe he's a Solarian, and he's like more of the he come from the good, the good side, I guess. And if they weren't killed off by like the like with the voice entry, maybe they were killed out through the Solarians. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe there was a war and they was just King's just one of the survivors. So but
a holy war. This is the last thing I'll say for real.
Okay.
When you think about a holy war, because we know we have angels in One Piece.
Yeah.
But look at Kaido, Moria, Magellan. Big Mom has some kids with like horns and stuff.
Like that little devil woman.
Look at Oars. Look at all these characters. Where do they come from? Why do they look like that?
Yeah.
That's never been explained. They've never even been referred to as a different species. Right. Well, there's only one time that is somewhat of a reference, and even then you could say it's just the title, and that's Yamato be called the Oni Princess. Other than that, they've never been said, oh, this is a different species.
The ogre princess, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The ogre princess.
Yeah, only ogre. Yeah, that's true. And I always think is Oars one of those artificial giants as well, like the numbers.
They didn't.
Or is he like actual?
He's artificial.
Because the numbers are artificial.
Numbers are definitely artificial. Yeah.
Big Mom was like, are those artificial giants from Punk Hazard?
I think the government tried first, and they tried making the Oars type of giants. Then Big Mom came back around, and she wanted to make regular giants that could match her. And then Caesar started working on the kids. So there was 2 rounds of gigantification research. First the government, and then Big Mom funded it.
And we ain't even talk about the giants from the Florian Triangle either. Mm-hmm. That's, bro, like, for real, that's why I say, like, after One Piece is over, Oda should have another series where he kind of explores, like, not like a sequel more of a separate spin-off. It doesn't have, not like 800, 500 episodes. It could be like, maybe 26, it could be like less than 100 episodes. But he need to have one where we explore things like the Florian Triangle, Emerald.
He could make an anthology series. He could make it like comic books where it's just like, here's this story, here's that story.
I feel like the One Piece world structure. The One Piece world is just so like huge. It's like It could almost be like Marvel, almost, you know. But yeah, so I don't really want to go into too much into it, and I kind of want to talk to you after the stream. But you know, if you want to you know, shout out your YouTube channel, anything, you know, any social media you want to, you know, whatever.
Yeah, it's only 5 letters. ELiDZ. Type that into YouTube. Maybe add One Piece after it. You'll find my channel and all my theories.
Or you could go to the link down below. That's going to be the video. That's going to be the video I just reacted to. That will take you to the channel. You know, that'd be quicker. But go ahead.
Yep, and that's it.
That's it. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate having you. Don't hop off yet. I want to kind of talk.
Nah.
But I want to appreciate you. You know, hopping in and, you know, expanding on the theory video you made. Tomorrow I will be releasing a video. It's going to be from a clip from Sunday stream. You know, it's going to be talking about the Lunarians, and so make sure y'all go check that out when I drop that tomorrow. I will. Right now I'm doing the I'm streaming. Are you familiar with O'Hara, the Library of O'Hara, the YouTuber? Yeah. He's doing like a series right now and about like supposedly he knows the answer to what the One Piece is, and right now I'm reacting to he's doing like a series of videos, and I will probably be doing today's Wednesday. I will probably be doing the next episode 2 on Wednesday, Friday, on Friday. So y'all go check that out. Maybe if ELiDZ wants to hop on to any of my reaction streams like that, because I think that might be an interesting one that you might actually like. So maybe we could collaborate and kind of react to that together or something. I don't know. If you're interested, I'm not, you know, no pressure. If you have time, if you're interested. But I will probably be reacting to that either Friday or Saturday. So, yeah. That's going, and I have another video I'm gonna be dropping this week. So that's 2 videos I'm gonna be dropping, and another reaction video up until Saturday. So anyway, y'all make sure y'all give the stream a like. Make sure y'all go to his video and like the original video. It's your boy Sean Peter Bluff guy. Hey, I'm out. Y'all take it easy. Peace.